Hi Piccolos, this is a practice guide to Festive Overture by Shostakovich, Piccolo part, and this is the band version. So I'll go through and touch on the main difficult spots, playing it down once and then going back and going over any tips, advice I might have. Okay, so the first thing is you definitely need to use your B flat thumb throughout this whole section here and throughout most of the whole piece actually. And then I would always breathe here, but some band directors will have you go straight through. It just depends on what the clarinets are doing, it seems like. But there should be a little breath, but not too big. Just like a phrasing, restart of the slur. And anything with the dot coming out of the slur is very clipped, which helps us. So like right here. Yep, and then over here, very clipped off. The other difficulty that happens throughout the whole piece, and it's right here as well, is breathing. There's a couple options. What I did was here, and then you could breathe right here, measure before 6. I like to not breathe there because, I don't know, it just seems to disturb your airstream somehow with the fingerings and everything. I prefer to go on and then breathe on the E flat and break the slur a little bit. Just like a very fast breath just to get through there. So I'm breathing after the C right there and then just like real quick right there. Of course, if your band director might be like, nope, and then you'd have to breathe after the C before 6, then you have to breathe there. And then, one other thing, as I was playing, I just remembered the E flat we land on at 6. Try to make sure you don't land on it too wild with your air and have it just shoot up really sharp. Because we're kind of like, oh my God, with all the fast notes and everything, and it's easy to just have that be kind of wild sounding. So try to get a chorus sound and just sit in the E flat a little bit. The A flats that we come to a lot, like for instance here, I would do, and I think I do it pretty interchangeably in this piece I'm finding, but the alternate A flat. So I would just say if your A flats aren't coming out, then do the alternate fingering. And then over at rehearsal 10, same thing, make sure you have your B flat thumb on all through here so it's a million times easier. The super short, like a little miniature trumpet. And I would keep everything very still in the embouchure, the double tonguing, and don't try not to disrupt your embouchure by breathing or something like that. The other thing that's hard in this band version that's not in the orchestra is down here, 2 before rehearsal 13, we have to go up to high C. In the orchestra one, we're not even anywhere up there. It's down an octave and you don't have to do anything like this. For that high C, what I do, from the G is usually easy to come out, and then for the C, my embouchure just kind of like feels very loose and sort of melts down so that the hole where the air comes out is very close to right here. I'm not rolling in at all, but everything just like, I want to sit down with my embouchure so that the air can just go poof, right down into the hole. Try not to stab it. You don't want to go like that and kill your neighbors or your ear or whatever. And it usually doesn't come out. Although it kind of came out, but it sounded gross. It should just be ba ba ha, or that's how I think of it. Ba 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 down. I just like the air goes straight down without rolling in or anything like that. But my embouchure corners relax down. But I would just say, I know it's very exciting when we get a high C, we're like, ooh, but if it's not coming out, don't force it. Just let it be. It doesn't need to be there. This is an arrangement from the original orchestra, and it's a little weird. I mean, that's like violin line. So to have this like piccolo note from hell come out of the texture is a little weird anyway. So don't even worry about it if it doesn't come out. And then at 14, we have the melody with the horns. So you want to have that horn, like broad sound that horns can do and match them, of course, in intonation. When the line gets to the high G here, I always do the alternate only because my high Gs are so incredibly flat. And I'll have these alternate fingerings videos that I have. I'll link those in the description. The video fingering for high G sharp, A flat, and the high G natural. If you're finding that your high G, you're not able to, it's really out of tune with the horns, or you're not able to get the pitch up high enough, you might want to do the alternate. Little bit of vibrato, just try to make it pretty, be listening for intonation. I mean, the horns are there obviously, but I think there's other winds happening too. So you just need to be aware that you're trying to blend as much as possible. You're just adding color. It's not a piccolo solo exactly. You're just adding a little piccolo color. Okay, and then down here at before 19 here, this gets a little bit more involved. I'll play these 4 lines down once, and then I'll go back and go over some practice strategies and things that I think about to make sure these notes come out, especially that last line. Saying before, make sure you always have your thumb on the B flat side, but here you can't because you have B naturals. So I start with my thumb on what's called the long side, and then I go to my thumb, put it down on the B flat side, and then I'm back on the long side, because we have B flat, B natural, we have chromatic going up. So this section here where we have the repeated E flat, D, E flat, try to keep the fingers very close to the keys. It's not fast enough to do a trill fingering. We couldn't do trill fingering anyway because we have to go to the F, so that's out as an option. It's just very awkward because E flat has all the fingers down, D has almost all the fingers up. So I try to keep my fingers very curved, and then I just think of it's just that, and then the last note to the downbeat of the next measure is what I'm thinking about. F G, F G flat, F G. So I'm not reading, you don't have to read all the does, you know. I would practice it like this maybe. So you're isolating the changes, what's different from the E flat D. I would practice just a lot of, try to get that going, and don't be too loud. Like from there on to the next 2 lines, keep it mezzo forte-ish, just notes speaking. Don't go outside of the notes, because once you start to lose these high notes, we're only going higher, and once you lose the notes on the piccolo, it's really hard to regain your embouchure. Once you blow out your embouchure, you know, just where it just gives out and it can't hold the notes, it's really hard to get that back. So you want to pace yourself. When we get to this line here, I would just say, for one way to practice it, if it's very, very difficult in the fingers, just the technique, I would practice it on your flute first. Because, I mean, playing it on the piccolo, then you're dealing with the piccolo itself, like notes coming out, notes dropping, notes splitting, whatever, besides just the fingers. So if you are having problems with just the fingerings, do it on your flute first and then come to the piccolo. What I think about when I go through these 3 phrases, these 3 groupings, is the note that I have circled here. It's ya-da-da, E, and then the second group, ya-da-da, F, and then I don't know, then I just think to the top after. So I guess just those first 2. So I guess that third one, I do think F sharp. So I'm grouping it in my mind, ya-da-da, ba-da-da-da, ya-da-da, ya-da-da-da, ya-da-da, ba-da-da-da. So there is some kind of pattern. It's annoying, this line, because it's not quite chromatic, it's not quite a major scale, it's something kind of in between. But the first ya-da-da is just a half step. E flat, D, E flat, E flat, D, E flat, F, E, F. So there's that pattern, and then the rest going up is how I would think about it. Another way to practice it is stopping on that changed note, ya da da E, and then go up. So again, it's hard to control the notes up so high. So you could practice it all in this manner on your flute, because it all will transfer, you know, just the fingerings will transfer to the piccolo. Another way to practice this is in groups of 2. and you can do it faster and faster. You can come up with your own little patterns, but you need to break it down into groupings, and don't even bother with those accents on the top. Just that A flat coming out as you're going up the scale, it'll come out as an accent. You don't need to try to actively do an accent, because then you're going to do and once you do that, it's over. You're not going to be able to get the rest of it. One other way to practice it that helps me a lot is I do one grouping, like one slur, and then I just put a break, like a quarter rest or whatever, just for my mind to reconfigure itself or something, and then do the second group, the second slur, and then stop, and then the third one. So those are all ideas on how to practice it. About the notes, it's very difficult, going up, and we can have all kinds of issues. If your issue is as you go up, your notes are just like falling down, literally falling down to the next octave or to, somewhere below, it's because your airstream speed is not fast enough as you go through the slur. But you have to remember on the piccolo, if you're going fast air through, don't go fast air and wide. If you're getting the piccolo fart, that means you're too clamped down on your airstream with your embouchure. So it's just a little bit too clampy, which we can easily do because we're trying so hard to get those notes out. Another thing you could think about is you can try to lift, if you're able to, the top lip right in the middle. As you're going up, try to just pull it up a little bit. That'll keep the airstream going forward. That's very difficult to do, but if you're able to, and it's just like a microscopic amount. So if you're getting this buzz in your lips, then the lips are too close together, but you need a very small embouchure. So it's it has to be just right. The air is going very fast, very small embouchure, but if it's too tight and too clamped, then you'll get that buzz. So you can kind of just lift the top lip up a little bit right in the center, if possible. The measure before 20, the last A, this is a very minor detail, but the last A, you want to make sure your pinky stays down. So you're going F, E, F, F sharp, G, A, and it's all down for that. And then B flat, the pinky comes off, and only for B flat. If the pinky comes off before the B flat, you're going to get a little glitch. With the whole band, probably no one will notice, but I always notice that if I do that myself, and it drives me nuts. Okay, and then the next section, before 21, what I do is I take out this note here at 22, that E flat, and I just breathe right there. No one's gonna hear the E flat anyway. That I do that, and then I'm good until my next breath for me, and you can have your own system, but my next breath I do is right here on this tied F, and try to go all the way until this E flat here. I just take that out. And you can do different things. You can maybe try to breathe here, but the F, G, A flat, that's really important. That needs to be there. And if you breathe after that A flat, it's often scattered sounding coming to it, and you're disturbing the piccolo and I don't know. I don't like to breathe there if I can at all help it. So I breathe at that other E flat down here, and then breathe at 23. The breath at 23, I do a little crescendo and I breathe early. Some band directors, conductors insist that you crescendo and no breath through 23. What I do in that case is a measure before the E flat trill here, that C, I take that note out and I breathe there. That'll just get me through a little bit. So I'm gonna breathe on the E flat, and then I go, but back to my original plan, I breathe at 23 if I can get away with it. And then my next breath is after this E flat. So those are my breathing spots. Let's see if I can actually do that. Okay, some of the measures weren't as even or good as I would like, but anyway, that just demonstrates where I'm breathing. Some other things as it was going by, I thought about that I wanted to point out that you might want to do here, you get to that F flat, which is E natural, and then G flat, F sharp, I like to do the middle one, especially here, because you have da 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 da, and it's just a little bit cleaner than the regular F sharp G flat. But if it doesn't bother you at all to do regular G flat, then just leave it as is. I just like to do the middle F sharp for F, G flat. Here, E flat, do trill fingering to F. So it's just these, the left hand middle finger and ring finger go up, da da da, so you're not doing the real fingering. You go really fast and you have that over and over again. You don't want to be doing real E flat to F. Leading up to the actual trill. And then of course trill fingering at 23. And with your thumb on the B flat key, of course. E flat to F trill fingering here also. The hard thing about this, well, it's hard because it's hard. It's very technically difficult. And then on the piccolo, it's extra hard because we're up in the third register. And then we frequently go to A flats, which oftentimes don't come out, and all kinds of things. And then the breathing, which makes it so difficult. I think it's really important, no matter what your breathing plan is in this section from 21 through 24, that you have an actual plan and that you're going for it, that you practice it that way. So you don't have to do exactly what I did, but things to consider when you're figuring out your breathing is don't just say, okay, I'm gonna breathe here, but then when you're starting all the way back at 21, and by the time you get there, it's not ideal because it just disrupts everything, or you're way too out of breath. Don't wait till you're completely depleted from breath to decide this is going to be my breathing place. It needs to be realistic. I will say you can breathe, just after a slur and you have a dot, but if you do that, by the third line down, you are so tired because you're never getting a real breath, or I found that for myself. So if I'm playing from before 22 here, it's impossible. You need you need those to be there. So just keep that in mind. So you might need to take out something to make that happen. Okay, and then when we think we're through the worst of it, we have this last page here. This section here starting at 30. Let's see, I'll play it down once from 30 through 32. When you get here, going up and over the very highest part, it's crucial, like before, but even more crucial here, that you don't blow outside of your embouchure or outside of your airstream. Your airstream should stay narrow and fast. If you blow outside of that, the embouchure is going to come apart. That's really the key. The fingering's not too bad. And if, again, like before, if this is very difficult for you for the fingerings, the going up the grace notes and then back down and whatever, practice all of that on your flute. You don't want to be killing your ears and dealing with notes not even speaking when all you're trying to do is just get the fingering. So do all that on your flute. If the grace notes are not happening for you, you could, if it makes it easier, leave out the first note maybe. So you're not starting on G flat, you're doing A flat, B flat, da 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 da, like that. Like anyone's going to even notice with the full band playing. So I just left out the first G flat. But you need to, on the piccolo, if you're good with just the fingerings, you need to try to be able to play this slow and try to latch onto the airstream with your embouchure, but not too much or you're gonna get the buzz. It has to be just right. Try to make sure you've got control of the notes actually speaking and staying way up there before you try to do it very fast. When we get to this line, visually it looks very confusing. You might want to put the slashes above where your beats are. We're in 3-2 time. So beat 1 is that whole half rest. Beat 2 is the next G with just grace notes, G, and then 3 is right here. I would mark those for those 2 measures so you just visually you know where your beats are. Know that beat 2 are grace notes going up to beat 2. After beat 3, those are measured notes, meaning yada da 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 da. The 6th right here, missing the first one, I would think 2 notes plus a triplet. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, then landing note. Yada, triplet, A flat. Yada, triplet, A. I'll just slur to bring out those groupings. Of course, it goes a little faster, but I'm definitely thinking, while I'm playing it up to tempo, I definitely think about it in those groupings. So we have 1, da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. And then these quadruple grace notes going to beat 2 here. They should be close together, very tight and close to the G. So you don't want, it shouldn't sound like it shouldn't sound like the sixlet that we have later. It should sound like grace notes. So as close to beat 2 as possible. If those are like impossible to get all those notes out, what you could do is take out the first 2 notes of the grace note and do E, F, G, like that. You're still getting the effect out, and then same thing for the next one, just do F, G flat, A flat. So if I play that whole line in that way, it would sound like. If that makes it playable, do that. But of course we want to try to get all the notes, but we also don't want to be a big mess. So those are the main points, or the main hard parts in this piece. This is such a fun piece to play on piccolo. I hope some of the things that I went over, my fingerings I'm using, the breathing places, things like that, and just general piccolo advice about the airstream. I hope that was helpful. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. I'd love to have you be part of our piccolo community that we've got going on here. And I have a lot of these practice guides, also just a lot of videos on piccolo exercises and whatever, all things piccolo. So you might want to check some of that stuff out. But thanks for watching this video, and happy practicing.